Drink by the paint, Hank drove by the pine. Headed to the club in the boss top down.
What is up, everybody? Alucard Gaming here, and today, let me actually fix this a little bit. I'm gonna be reacting to my friend that I know. I talked to him personally. His video that has gotten a lot of, just a lot of attention recently. I want to see, because I don't know about him, but I'm a huge For Honor player. I don't think he plays as much anymore, but I'm gonna be making this video just to be seeing what he says, if it makes sense, or if he's just spouting nonsense. Onyx. I'm gonna see what you got to say. This is my first time watching it. I never watched the video, so let's see. The reason why I made this video is to make something. The treatment of this game will be everything contagious and so on. Hopefully it's not too loud and it won't murder my earlobes. He'll be talking about year 1 to year 7, which you really can't do. I'm going to stop you right there. You really cannot talk about, if you're going to compare between one or the other, like this, if you're going to compare the first year For Honor to the newest, which is today's year 7, you can't really do that anymore. You're going to, if you want to make a more reasonable argument, it's better if you were to talk about it CCU update to year 7, because For Honor and For Honor Now is 2 completely different games. You cannot make the analogy with both of them anymore. You have to do it CCU update to year 7. Honestly, I still think this is hands down the best intro.
I've covered For Honor, but I thought
that.
I would finally come back to the game where I started my channel, to talk about the absolute shit state the game is in. As a longtime player of For Honor, that has been there ever since the alpha, day 1, until now. To see how this game has changed, it has changed a lot. But to see some of the changes they have made is genuinely disgusting. To say that any of the characters or reworks they've released in the last 2 years have been genuinely good to fix many of the problems of those characters. Yes, there are usually some improvements to those characters, but they always turn into the same fucking character at the end of the day. Lawbringer, for example. He is now Conqueror 2.0. And it's more than likely not going to get better. They will continually make these changes, as we saw with Yorm, even though...
Alright, so to talk about you on that point, you also got to understand the problem that they are doing this. They are doing this for high-level play as well as just play overall. Because with the recent changes they've made, they're trying to make it more accessible for young people with lower ability in the game that don't really play as much or are not as good as the other players, have a better chance. That's why they changed the dash attacks into light parries. I personally hate that. I really don't like it. As a higher level player, I think that was really a bad choice on their part. But in terms of the reworks and stuff, you also got to remember, if they don't, the meta will never change. They're trying to change meta. That's literally all they want to do. Yes, they go overboard with it to where it's just damn right crazy. They're crazy good. Like, they're above S tier. They're double S. It's like that. But the whole point of them changing this is because they want to have a meta change. That's why this is the first time, like, I think ever, Valkyrie was meta. Valkyrie's never been meta before, and I don't even think Tiani's been meta before. Tiani and Valk had their little spotlight in meta, and now they're changing it to where Lawbringer and Jormungandr were meta. Now, granted, Jormungandr was meta on release, and same thing with and Lawbringer was meta when he had his hyper armor on his shove and stuff. At that time, they were really busted, but they're trying to just get the people that weren't meta a chance in the spotlight, some more than others, like, obviously, because we'd never seen Nuxia yet, but she got a little touch up, but that's why that is a thing. So, and you also need to think about it as a consumer perspective as well. No one is going to put time and money into buying a character, Yorm, if the character is trash. They're not going to. He's been out long enough. Everybody knows how he played before. If the rework was going to be bad, no one was going to touch him. But again, they want the meta change, so they're going to change that.
They are on board to make criticism and changes to what people think of those. I do think the pinnacle of...
Oh, I also want to point out, Lawbringer is still not even confirmed to have that, testing ground-wise, because they changed a lot for Yorm. Yorm was, when they were showcasing him, his stuff sucked. It looked terrible. But they tweaked it to where it was better. It's out of hand, yes, definitely out of hand, but it was better than what they showcased when they first showed him. Lawbringer is going to go through the testing grounds. A lot of people are going to complain about it, and they're going to change stuff for sure. So it's not, you can't pace it as the fine print.
What actually a good rework is for a character or a slight tweak to it would be year one. Instead of making the character go nuclear by giving them everything in their kit, they give them a few select things to make them just a bit better, to make them more viable.
The problem with that is if you try to do that, they're not going to be good enough to be playable in comp and or high level play, and the meta is going to stay exactly the same. They're not going to be... Why would anybody go these new slightly tweaked people that are a little slightly better when people can just play the more busted characters? That's kind of the whole point of this. They want the meta change. You got to understand that. And I know I keep pausing and talking. It's just mainly because it just sounds more like he's not understanding why they're doing it. But he might talk about it more. So I'm gonna not talking and we'll go more into it.
With my little tangent aside, let's lay the structure and foundation of this video in which order we are going to cover these problems and the state of the game. Okay, shitters, the first thing I'll be talking about is balancing and character reworks. Next, we'll be doing interviews with community members and people that I've played with over the years to see what they think of the state of the game. After that, we'll be looking at the community overall around For Honor, like shitters, like 4 edits. After that, we'll be looking at the current state of the game. Lastly, we'll be taking a look at random bits of information I deem interesting or necessary for this video, because this is my channel and I can say whatever I want. In conclusion, winning, skill issue, get better. I think I've made my stance pretty clear on what I think of modern reworks in For Honor, so I'm going to give you what I think of the Lawbringer rework as a great example of how to not rework a character. I will also give an example of how to rework a character from my personal preference, and also try to defend the point that they rework these characters this way, because I believe there is a reason. We're going to start off strong with an actual good thing about this change with Lawbringer's rework, the light chain. The light chain is genuinely good to have. Now that he can actually attack with light, gives him a bit more options in fights. This is a benefit. This is only a W for the character. The only people that would actually complain about this light chain are dumpy that have no clue how to play the fucking game. But we can't expect the gods to do all the work for these little shitters that have no clue. They should be thankful that they get another easy character to play. Next, let's talk about the heavies, and how rewarding unblockable heavies are. They are not, that's a lie, and anyone that tells you they are rewarding is an absolute liar and should not play the game. We also need to talk about on heavies how Lawbringer now has hyper armor. If he just got hyper armor...
Wait, what did he just say? Did he just say unblockables aren't rewarding?
To do all the work for these little shitters that have no clue. They should be thankful that they get another easy character to play. Next, let's talk about the heavies, and how rewarding unblockable heavies are. They are not, that's a lie, and anyone that tells you they are rewarding is an absolute liar and should not play the game.
What? That doesn't make any sense. Unblockables aren't rewarding. What do you mean? They break turtle. They make people who stand their guess. And they are a counter to unlock blocking. Block. I forgot what it's called. It's when you lock onto someone else to block the person you're fighting better. It breaks that. And on top of that, most of the unblockables do really the biggest damage in the game, And on top of that, if they don't do the biggest damage in the game, they set up ganks for bigger damage, such as Shinobi's unblockable, Gladiator's unblockable. They even Nuxia, her trap is technically unblockable, but you gotta block it. It does the color, but that does that. Zanhu counters that. Yeah, no. I don't know where you get that analogy from, but that is not it.
We also need to talk about on heavies how Lawbringer now has hyper armor. If he just got hyper armor, he would have been a very good character without any of these changes.
No, that is not true, because that would just mean all you would have to do is stand there and block. Every character kind of needs an unblockable to break turtle meta, especially against PC players. If you do not understand that, then you don't really have any business talking about it.
Changes, but they choose to go, in a sense, new.
I will say for a fact, though, he does not need the hyper armor on unblockable. They're probably going to take that away. I'm pretty sure that's not making it past testing grounds.
With the character and change everything about it to make it even more scary than it needs to be. He also now has easy access to unblockables with his heavy. He can lead into it relatively fast through his light chain and heavy chain. I can also see it being very good for externals in Dominion. This could be a very good way to mess with the enemy and easily deal a lot of damage while also leading into another combo. To repeat the unblockable many times over, because someone with a level of schizophrenia thought that was a good idea, because for some reason making a glorified Conqueror 2.0 and giving constant 50-50s guaranteed more than likely you are going to get hit by one of those heavies, and if not, he's gonna guard break you. Can you see how this...
That's what a 50-50 does. But again, he's supposed to have you gotta understand the character as well, is he's a pressure person. He's high defense and high pressure mix-up.
This is a problem. Next, I'd like to talk about the bash. For some reason, they thought changing it was a good idea. Out of all seriousness, who thought it was a good idea to change it from horizontal to vertical? By doing that, you cover less ground with your polearm. Why? And why did you even bother changing it?
I think they made it... they did that because they wanted to... this is from what I think. It's clearly slower than his bash right now. They did that because the pressure that he applies is a lot more complicated. But then again, I'm pretty sure he can feint that.
Did not need a change. It was already a good animation. You're just doing unnecessary work that doesn't need to be changed. Yes, it may look a bit strange, but if you slightly change the animation, for example, when you're feinting it, it looks completely fine.
Yeah. They made it slower. I'm telling you, this is the reason why they did it, and I'm kind of shocked you didn't pick up on why they did it, is because his pressure with all of his attacks as of right now in the showcase were so aggressive and so forthcoming. His bash would have just guaranteed more, even though that everything else would just, they didn't want to completely destroy the character, make him busted. Like, he's obviously busted in this, but they didn't want to make him, I guess, more busted, which is weird, but they made it slower purposely so you can feint it and so you could actually have a chance to get out of it.
There is no need for him to go from horizontal to vertical with his polearm. In a historical sense and in a logic sense, that covers less ground and would just make it easy for them to move out of the way. You would want to cover the most ground possible when hitting them to throw them off balance. For a game that's on a skeleton crew, you would expect them to not do this much unnecessary work, but I am kind of impressed that they take the extra effort and go the extra mile to make these changes. So now, we've made it to the part where I have to defend them. There is no gameplay terms or any development knowledge I can share that can really tell you anything about this. It's mainly just the community getting better at the game and reacting to every rework they put in, learning how to counter the characters and actually play the game better and more effectively. That isn't translated in-game, of course, because you still can't gank, but out of all seriousness, in a duel situation, people are definitely getting better. But when it comes to external pressures in Dominion, people seem to just fall apart. Now it is time for me to talk about the most ideal rework in my eyes that actually made a character better, while also making him fairly balanced for the most of the community to actually fight and counter. It was the Year 1 Warden rework. That is what I believe to be the pinnacle of a character. He was given a new move while also having one move removed. The first one was a chase down for him, his lunge forward that is most known for an easy parry. But back then, it was a huge benefit for the character, as
At the time, this is wrong because at the time when he had his rework, he was considered really busted. And the reason why was because everybody couldn't really do anything about him. The characters that were out at the time, he was actually really good at that time. And I remember even making some memes about it because rolling, if you guys remember back time, the rolling is not a counter. Where people used to say that about Warden when he got his rework. That was not balanced. Not at all. Especially at the time it was a thing. That was not balanced. And that alone kind of just tears apart this argument right here.
Before, he could not chase down or actually stop people from running away. For the life of me, I cannot find
Yes, he could. He had his dash forward heavy.
gameplay of the Year 1 Warden rework. I have tried to find Warriors dens from around that time that actually show it off, but none of them seem to do it. Because of that, I can't tell you of any minor changes they may have done to the character in the process of that rework. The only thing I can tell you is that they removed his back dodge into bash. For those who don't know, Warden Vortex used to be a problem in Year 1. The simple process of a back dodge into bash is very problematic. The basic concept of how it was mainly used, if you throw an attack and he was to dodge backwards in the process of getting a confirmed dodge, he would follow that up with an easy and confirmed bash, meaning that he would get a guaranteed free damage no matter what, and you cannot react or counter it. Even though newer reworks still follow the concept of removing problematic combos and adding new ones that can help the character, they seem to go and do everything about the character, not changing the problems at hand. Because garbage players continue to cry on Reddit about how these characters and Lawbringer is somehow overpowered, even though at the time he is okay to somewhat terrible. If I missed any important information on Warden and Lawbringer as the examples, please let me know, and if I got it wrong, I will correct myself in the comments. Now we have made it to the interviews. We'll start off strong with the #1 Lawbringer of OCE, so he can share his opinions on the rework and the overall state of the game that everyone else will be talking about as well.
And I know you guys can't see, so I'll read it real quick. For some reason, while I was editing, I'm very silent, but he was completely fine. You don't really need to hear me as long as you hear his response, but if you felt like you've had enough, feel free to skip ahead. I know I'm blocking a part of it, so.
Let's get started.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Lawbringer rework?
It's not great, I'd say. They just went way out of the boundaries of what he should have been reworked for. Like, I personally didn't even think he really needed a rework, just more of like a quality of life, but...
Okay, so, first of all, this man, obviously he's the #1 Lawbringer. That does not mean he knows Lawbringer. I'm telling you this right now, because if you want a actual genuine opinion on characters and how they should be used and how they're supposed to be played and stuff, you could go to comp players. You do not go to the #1s, because that could stand for people that are just playing the character nonstop. Or some of them are genuinely good, don't get me wrong, yeah, but most of the #1s, I'm pretty sure, don't really play as competitively as comp players would. I'm pretty sure there are comp Lawbringers that are probably better than this one. No offense to him, I'm sure he's really good and stuff, but they are changing him because they want him to be comp and they want him to be meta. That's what a lot of people don't seem to understand. But I agree. It's really if he goes into the game as he is, they showed him, he's gonna be busted. He's probably gonna be the best character in the game.
It's kind of a bit of a joke.
Similar to like Hyper Armor as an example is all he needed, or maybe a full light combo.
With the full light combo, like, it's not really fair that he can get a triple light. And, like, you know, Orochi can't anymore. The characters they used to have triple lights, but I can understand why they went that way, because other characters have triple lights.
The triple lights I think is really bad. Like, well, the triple lights are fine. The damage for the triple lights is not fine. I'm pretty sure he does like 35 damage for a full light chain if he hits you with all 3 lights. And they're pretty fast too, so it is very possible to land those, especially on assassin players or anybody who doesn't have a reflex guard. So putting that, because I'm pretty sure it's like 18, 14, 15 type of thing. I wasn't paying attention to the damage numbers. Hopefully he shows it again.
So, it's not my main issue. It's just like in my opinion, all they really need to do was give him some hyper armor, beat up his bash, and give him 2-hit chain lights. So light, and then he'll have to do a heavy, and then that heavy having hyper armor. Just that overall thing.
Then he would have lost his identity and been called Griffin 2.0. They are trying to keep them separate, and I don't think this guy understands that.
That's honestly what I would be fine with, because his punishes are already fucking amazing. Beating up the bash would make it a lot easier.
His punishes are not that amazing, considering that he only gets 1 heavy and a light off. Especially in a team fight wise, you're not getting that in a 4v4 scenario for the most part. If you get a light parry, you're not getting in. Your team is competent. You're not getting that off. You're getting hit out of it, and you're just stuck with doing his own. In a 1v1 perspective, his punish would be spear into wall, heavy mix-up, which is fine, but in retrospect, if you're playing a higher tier character, because in ones he's okay, but he's not that good. If you're running into a warlord or literally any other heavy, you're not going to win that fight for the most part. If a competent player is playing those characters, if a competent lawbringer is playing a competent BP, Conqueror, Warlord, the Warlord's going to win. The Warlord has better tools, has better pressure, has better damage, and Lawbringer is kind of resolved to just standing there and trying to counter because he doesn't have anything else. So if he were to have 2 lights, that if you, like he said, if you were to give him the 2 lights, all you would really have, I know it sounds stupid, but all you have to do is block, but it's kind of the truth. Like, it's way easier to block in duels than it is in 4s, because the frames are, you have a lot more frames than you do in duels than 4s. In 4s, I'm pretty sure for people with new Xbox and new PlayStation, I know it's supposed to be 60 FPS, but it crunches it down to like 50. I'm not saying it's for sure, but if you were to play a Dom game and then you play a duel, you can tell the difference. It looks cleaner. It's more vanilla. It comes cleaner. So the frames are definitely slower in 4s than they are in duels. So taking that into perspective, all those characters that I just mentioned, even with the nerfs now, are still better than Lawbringer.
Obviously. And they did that. So, and we were all showing that with Lawbringer with a quicker bash, he's a bit of a scary boy. So I think those other little changes, I think that'll basically do it.
Would you say that they took a more nuclear option? Kind of like with other characters, Kong, or many other characters that you can pick from?
Yes, this is probably just, it's like almost out of nowhere at how much they changed about him and how overtuned they just did it, really. Like, Conqueror, yeah, that was a bit nuclear, I will say. But, yeah, Lawbringer, they just full centered, like, I mean, if this somehow goes through, look, the power high is going to be bloody amazing. I'm going to love it. But at the same time, it's not.
He does deserve it. He's been taking up the ass for a couple of years, don't lie.
He has been taking it up the ass for a little bit, I won't deny that. It's just going to be Shinobi all over again when his rework first came out, like the most recent rework for him. Yeah, that man was just fucking dominant for God knows how long. And just, it was funny to see like the worst character go to the best character, and it'll be funny to...
Shinobi wasn't the worst character, like, ever. The worst character in For Honor history, still to this day, is Nuxia. Or it comes down to Nuxia or Peacekeeper. Both of them don't have enough damage, both of them don't have a big scary mix-up, and for the most part, they get countered and beat by everybody because they either have better attacks, better damage, better gimmicks, better 50-50s. So, and Shinobi wasn't that bad because Shinobi still had his gank potential. He didn't have his busted gank potential when he had his rework. He had his quad dash, and he still had his knockdown gank. But people didn't realize that until they actually started doing this. Danny would RB Zone will vouch for that too. Like that's not accurate at all.
See for Lawbringer as well.
For the people who don't know, RB Zone is the number one Shinobi in the world, and he's actually he is what the number one should be. Like majority of the number ones that aren't that good because they're not comp players for the most part. If there's some are, then sure, yeah, I'm sure they're good too. But for the most, he's the only person I know that's number one and a comp player, and he's actually really good with Shinobi and knows how to play and use him.
But it is stupid though. I'm not dismissing that. It is a very nuclear, very just blown out of the water. Just ugh.
What do you think of them removing any sense of skill, working your way into the character's combos, and feeling rewarded for a punish? For example, taking a max punish in the sense of, what was it, getting a guaranteed light after, I forgot, which fucking one was it again? It was really rewarding in a sense.
The light tap, like after a parry, like the little tap you can get now.
Not
just
like that, it was a
stuff.
finisher that he had.
Oh, the blind justice finisher or whatever it was. How like on the top heavy you get a guaranteed tap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Look, he already has that, but it's obviously not as easily accessible at the moment. But taking away, it's like how I
character, wasn't he? And does it hurt you in a sense that it's removing any of that skill cap and making it look easy to play the character?
The only what brought the skill to Lawbringer is the just knowing how to verse every other character. Because realistically, Lawbringer, his downfall is getting into the offense, and so you kind of had to the turtle and everything, and so you just go for light parries, heavy parries, stuff like that. But in turn, you sort of do have to know what the opponent you're versing and stuff like that. But since they've taken basically all the issues he's had getting into the offense, taken that it's no longer an issue, nor would anyone even consider it being hard now. Taking that out, it is a bit of a bummer that you could just play him brain dead. Not saying that you couldn't do it before, because you could do it before if you had the frames. Man could just stand there and just eat your ass.
Yeah,
but
staring.
Yeah, staring eye contest, let's go. And I appreciate that they're taking that out. Like, I know Lawbringer can be just versing it. I'm gonna...
I don't think this guy realizes that's not something they put into the game intentionally. That's not... The whole turtle bringer is not really their fault, but it is at the same time. So let me explain why. This is what I mean by this, is that we could play these characters any way we want. Whether they have the ability to be aggressive or not is their fault. No, that's what I mean. Is that, for instance, Lawbringer didn't have much, so he kind of had to rely on turtling a lot more than others. This is supposed to make people be like, hey, don't turtle, fight. You can do stuff now, you can do it, fight. But the truth is, and this is what he doesn't seem to understand, is that high-level players are going to fight, but they're also going to turtle again. why would I let why would I not do something that's already great with him, plus with the added new stuff? That doesn't make sense. And from a high level standpoint, most players would still be a little more turtley, because as soon as that person makes a mistake, they're going for it and they're killing him.
Say this with air quotes, an optimal Lawbringer. He will just stand there, stare at you for the entire time. Once he gets that opening, you're dead. You're just straight up dead, because he knows the offense. He knows how to just fuck with your mind, and that's another aspect. He had a bit of mind game to him. Like my favorite combo that I don't know if it's true, but I will confidently say that I brought into at least the Oceanic Lawbringer gameplay was after unblockable. Instead of shoving, go for a guard break. I was the first Lawbringer that I'm aware of that was doing it in our servers, and that would work 90% of the time.
I know that strat, and I don't know if it originated from you, but my friend Rev also does that. So I think it's just experimenting with the character long enough, and since you're the number one, I'm sure you're a 70. He's a 70 as well, and he played Lawbringer religiously and stuff. But I'm pretty sure it's like a very few. It's like the higher people who actually take the time out with their character to learn them. That level, not in terms of actual being good at the game, but I mean in terms of actually knowing the characters and what they can and what you can kind of get away with mind game wise. Like, for instance, I think I created the Nuxia tech where you guard break and you do a zone trap. I never see Nuxias do that. Every time I show Nuxia players that strat, they're like, whoa, I didn't know you can do that. I never knew that was a gimmick that people would fall for. It's like that.
And that's like a mind game. I would consider that a bit of a higher skill thing to do, even though it's not really, I would say,
Outside
you
the
know,
box.
it's not outside, yeah. It's more, yeah. And so,
Something people wouldn't expect.
yeah. And it's like, it is upsetting to see that, you know, he is. It's like, yeah, I was about to go into like taking away the zone attack, because I was gonna go into his like quote unquote most skillful thing. So,
see if I can find another question. What do you think of
Yeah.
the current state of the game and how they treat each character? Rework, balances, and just overall how they treat the game.
the game state at the moment, I would say, is it's not great. It's seen better days, but it's not horrible.
It is very bad right now. It is probably one of the worst updates they've ever made. I don't think he fully understands what this update was. They made so many characters unplayable because most of their kits involve dodging. Like, now granted, in duels, it's a different story, but fours wise, which is obviously the dominant game mode in Dom, is the dominant game mode in For Honor. And taking that into perspective, Kensei's kit, useless. Highlander is way more harder to use because light parry. Griffin, useless. He's that nerfed him into the ground, and he wasn't even that good to begin with. Hito, it was fine with. That was a good one. Gladiator can't really chain off of his bash anymore. He gets guard broke out of it. Useless. He made him worse. Peacekeeper nerfed her in the fucking ground. She didn't have that much to begin with. Now you're gonna make her dash attack a light parry. She doesn't have a big health bar as it is. Certain characters it does work out for, I get it. Obviously, Hito is good. He can get a light parry off his parry because he has a really scary chain and stuff. I get that. But anybody, for the most part, the only one that this, honestly, there's only two people that this should have countered. Like, this should have been 4, which would have been Pirate, Medjai, honestly, all the Outlanders. I'm a 70 Alfreya. I hate it. I really hate it. But I understand it because Alfreya has a lot of pressure. So I'm willing to cope with that. Same thing with Pirate. Pirate's external dash attack is very scary. Because she can keep dashing into it. So I understand. That can be a light parry. Same thing with Medjai. Medjai, external dash. Scary. Light parry. Kensei can external dash, but he does it once. And he only gets 1 attack off of it. Where compared to Medjai, he can do a full chain and keep going. He can't go with the dash, but he can go with his infinite, where he just goes light, heavy, and so on. Kensei is the difference. He can only do a heavy, and then like heavy, or heavy light. So no, this is a very terrible update and nerfed majority of the characters in the ground. And it didn't really change anything in terms of we want turtle meta back. That's what this pretty much is. Because all it is now is people just standing still and just spamming more 50-50s because dashing is no longer good.
It's not like there are still some like outliers and stuff like that that can just sort of, you know, make the game not fun. And like the way they go about yes. Yeah, there are some, I'll say, people who make the game a bit, you know, annoying to play against. So like, you know, as someone muttered there, but but I'd say like Philly Fry's stack, like him, Impulse, Bash Spam, just that whole group is just like, it is a bit of a headache to verse.
I'm fine. I'm friends with Onyx, so I wonder if he's gonna bring me up at all in this video.
Like you like the game physically can't do anything about that.
That is the problem with the OC community, though. We just don't have many players.
Yeah, don't have many players, and like to take new players for example, they have to win like 3-4 games, and then the game just immediately thinks, hey, you've won this many games, you must be good. Let's just place you in a like rep 500 plus lobby and make you uninstall the game real quick. That's just, you know, sort of why we have a small community, because it's just not new player friendly. But I digress from it. The way they go about the reworks is, look, it's not great. Like the way they do it, it's not great, but it's the only viable thing they can do to keep up with the current metas and all the other characters. It is legitimately the only thing they can do. Like the quick bashes, the pressure into the bashes, the feintable bashes, the tracking, the things that just don't really feel fair. It's the only thing they can do. Like,
see, that's what I'm saying. Which I don't get why he's saying this now, because that literally contradicts everything he was saying up to this point. But what he's saying is what I just said earlier, why I said he's wrong when he's saying all this stuff, is because they make him that because if they just give him minor tweaks, he's not going to be played, he's not going to be meta, he's not going to be good. When I can just play someone that's easier to play that does that.
All the other, like, people complain about Conqueror with his like shit with like, you know, feintable bash, instant unblockable, just, and the amount of damage he used to do. They nerfed the damage now, but you know, just the way that went, the way he did that. And I'll even go back further to like his first rework, where he had undodgeables, where he had bash 50-50 into an undodgeable 50-50. That is just the game now, though. That is legitimately the game. It's no longer reactions, it's a read-based game. And people aren't really grasping that yet. Then they just can't get with the reality that it's a read-based game. It's no longer reaction. We're all new gen. We can.
The only people that don't really get it are people that are new to the game and or don't play this game as casually. They are under casual. People who don't do that at this point are either new to the game or under casual players. Like, I don't know what the term would be. If they're not new, but they're not casual either. They're in between them two.
All react well. which is why they're speeding up everything, why they're making 50-50s more of a 50-50. And I know Freeze will fucking hate me using the 50-50 shit, but you know, I'm calling it 50-50. And
Suck a fucking dick, the average Birmingham resident.
honestly. But the way they do it, yes, it's like it's pretty shit. Lawbringer, they have to completely redo it. I think it's a shit rework, but you have to have these bashes. You have to have the 50-50 mix up. You have to have.
His morals are. He wants to say this rework is terrible, but in reality, this rework will make him S tier. So no, this rework is not terrible. It's broken. It's overpowered. But it's not terrible. And if you're saying it's terrible, that sounds more like he's trying to sound like, oh no, I'm humble. This is too, it's too much. But you know, it's definitely not the case. The rework is not terrible. Like, in a player standpoint, it'd be like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to deal with this. Yeah, sure. If that's what you mean, sure, it's terrible. But in terms of actual his kit and him as a character, it's not terrible. It's godly.
Easy access of unblockables to stay currently relative. Because if you look at other characters that don't have it, it's just they're not great. They're really not. It's always been that thing. Like, even when I'll say even Kensei is good. He's good, but when you like to get into his unblockable, you have to do the back.
Kensei is not good anymore because his dashes were a key part of his gameplay kit, and you can't really do that anymore. And even if you can trade your unblockable now with certain characters. There are some characters you could still hit Kensei out of his unblockable because, you know, why not? But yeah, no, Kensei is not good.
Ash, and then when
Yep.
actually before the bat, you have to work for it, and just so many characters who are S tier, A tier, they don't have to work for it. They legitimately don't have to work for it. It's just a part of their kit. They can just do it. But I was gonna say, with Kensei, this is gonna lean into more Lawbringer's rework, where it'll also Shaolin as well. When a move leads into something else, but that one particular move is the only move that can lead into it, people's mentality will change when they see that. So when Shaolin first came out, his top light was the quickest. But people were wondering, if it's the quickest, then how come it's getting parried more? When someone's versing a Shaolin, as soon as they see that indicator come from top, they'll just parry it. Because they are assuming that you're just going to throw a light.
Well, because that's just muscle memory. And that is also why they made that move, what's it called? They made that move enhanced. And on top of that, it was never even that good before his rework. I don't know what kind of Shaolins you fought, but people didn't start using the top light until his rework. If you're talking about the rework Shaolin, sure, yeah. But for the most part, most people still don't parry it.
Same with Kensei. If they see a top heavy, their mentality is going to change, which is where his 50-50 comes in when he does a heavy. He can either do a bash, or he'll go into a GB, because their mentality has changed a bit, or he'll just let the heavy go for, whatever reason.
Or if you're smart and you know how to play the game, you realize you can just backlight him into it. But, don't know that. A lot of people don't know that, and apparently he does not because, yeah.
And this is where it leads into the Lawbringer rework. People's mentality will change when they see that top unblockable come in, because he can only combo off of that top unblockable. So I'm not saying it's good, I'm saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad, but I think people are stressing a lot more than they should when they see that, because their mentality is just going to change. It's like, if he lets it go, he's going to be right back into his pressure. So I should try and find an option to get out of this. Whether it's an early dodge attack, light him out of it, depending on what you've been hit by. If you've been hit by a heavy or something like that, then hitstunn's gonna fuck you. But it's still good. It's still gonna be, I still think they need to change it. But people need to realize your mentality and thinking is gonna change when you see these specific moves. So that's just my thoughts about that, and my thoughts about how they rework characters, and just
I do think when
they
you keep in
just
mind
need to do it.
that they're probably on a scale.
The thing is like with his statements is they weren't really they were pure statements, and then he contradicted himself in the very middle, and saying everything I said in the first part of me talking was a lie. That's literally what he did. He was saying one thing, and then in the middle he contradicted what he was saying before, and then he continued talking about other characters. So I don't think that's a reliable source in terms of that, just because he's a number one. So that's my thought, though.
Concur as well.
Oh yeah, that, like I have no doubt. I have no doubt. Like the people we see on Warriors Den is probably like 80% of the devs. Like
They got like
it
three
is.
guys loading in the game. Let's go.
Like I have no doubt it's an extremely small team with very low funding, which to me is strange. It would it explains it, but I think it's also strange.
For also doesn't really have low funding. Like, it's not as big as Rainbow and stuff, but For Honor is still in its top 3 of best-selling games for Ubisoft right now. Ubisoft, For Honor is definitely in the higher echelon of games. That's why we're still able to get updates and reworks and events and new maps and stuff. It doesn't, I know it doesn't seem like much, but it actually is. Rainbow Six is probably still their best-selling game, and if For Honor's not its second, then For Honor is definitely its third or fourth. So that's also inaccurate.
Range, giving that it's a very well-known game. Like I'll go up to like, well, I wouldn't say just go up to the person next door and say, hey, do you play For Honor? No, but yeah, bruh. I've heard of it, but shit. But
I can agree to
like,
that. I've gone to a lot of communities, right, that you would never expect For Honor players, and they play it.
Yeah, they play For Honor, or at least they've heard about it. Yeah, it is a very popular game when it comes to just knowing about it. And that is where it surprises me that it doesn't get a lot of attention from Ubisoft. But at the same time, I can imagine it does cost a lot of money, because just giving the animations, giving the time, it's a very, I would imagine, technically demanding game when you're working on it. But that's like, especially for, it doesn't have a lot of players. It really doesn't. So why would you dedicate all these time and resources to For Honor? But that's just a whole loop that just kind of contradicts itself.
The reason why it doesn't have a lot of players is because of the very unforgiving curveball it throws you in terms of learning the game. Because you can't just learn one character and play the game. You have to learn all the characters to play the game. And not even learn how to play the characters. You have to learn all the characters' moves. And then on top of that, you also have to learn all the characters' moves plus all the gimmicks that are used in the games. And you have to learn on all the timings of the characters' attacks, of the characters' movements, of the characters that give away stuff, that what's guaranteed, what's not guaranteed, what's risky and what's always safe. There's too much to learn for a new player to take on, and since the people that stay and play know how to play for the most part, they just get destroyed and they get discouraged and they leave. That is exactly the reason why the game does not have as big as a player base as it did.
So, but the same can be said with Rainbow Six Siege, but obviously that's a much more successful game. It's a flagship game from Ubisoft, so
I do feel
it
like
is
For
obviously
Honor, in a
gonna get
sense,
more.
has a lot more players. Because I have noticed, have you ever, like, tried to fuck around with any of the communities, and then you realize you got the high-level players and you got the low-level? They're, like, separated into two different categories, if you will.
Yeah, it's like, do you want to have fun?
Sorry,
do you
I
not
keep
want to have
yawning.
fun? That's
It's kind of weird,
basically
because
it,
I will
yeah.
never see these players, right?
Oh yeah.
But then
You'll
I
never
do,
see
it's
them.
like, what the
Yeah.
fuck are you doing?
Yeah, it's like it's strange because like being like a high MMR player, like you just don't really see much else beyond your like level. But there is an amazingly large amount of people from rep 1 to rep 100. That community is
amount of
huge.
shit-orders.
That one, yes. But they are huge. If those fuckers just did an uprising, we are gone.
See, that's what I'm talking about. This, most of the people, like for me, I never see people. Most reps I see on people usually are 300 and up, because I guess people call it MMR, I guess, is pretty much the top echelon of players, where it's just up there at that point. So we don't fight anybody but people who actually know how to play the game.
And just so you either, because what it is now, it's either that, just those people, or people have been playing since the start of the game, or marching fire. It is legit just those two. Like, given me, I've been playing like basically like since the alpha, not the alpha, beta. Playing just the beta, not the alpha. I'm not that fucking not that cool. Fortunate. Not that cool of a gamer. Yeah, I've been playing since
alpha.
then. Obviously not all the time, because I don't have the reps to really show it. But I
haven't taken a single break from this game.
I've been on
the longest
and
the longest break I've took in For Honor, I think, is maybe half a week.
It's probably Marching Fires where I actually really started to play the game again. But yeah, you are right though. You are. It is either all the low level shitters or the high level motherfuckers who just either know how to fuck around, which is like a handful of them, or B, they're playing like at a fucking Ubisoft Invitational, just $100,000 grand prize if you just teabag one person. It's like,
that's me. That's me.
Oh yeah, true. I forget about that. No toxicity allowed in any means. Can't even say good fight.
No, there's a difference between toxicity and saying good fight. Like, for instance, with what I try to do with my guys, I'm like, the rule we have is simple. We don't want to promote toxic play. We don't want... None of the high-level players want that. We want a community where everybody's cool and fine, and they can respect the good people that actually grind and play this game serious. And respect the new players who are new and upcoming and could be as good as us one day. For me and my group, we get toxic only when they initiate. So if someone dances on one of my friend's bodies, we talk about it as it's happening. He's like, hey, this Norm's dancing on my body. Okay. We kill him and we proceed to dance on his body for the whole game. And only him. We don't do anything else to anybody else. If the other team joins in, then we start doing it to them, and then they're back and forth. But higher level players tend not to initiate it because we don't have to, because we know at the end of the game we're going to take the dub. Especially if we're with our team that knows how to play.
I don't even know it's true, but it sounds like it's true.
Normally, you're allowed to do one good fight after a game, one good fight, and one emote, and that's it. Anything else is kind of considered toxic.
Alright, well...
Yeah, that's my opinion on that.
He has also told me to leave you one singular message. A message for shitter lawbringers. So, enjoy.
Listen here, you lower life beings. I have over 500 hours on Lawbringer, and I have been the #1 in my region for over 2 years. Oh yeah, I forgot. It's not NA. He's not an NA #1 Lawbringer. Yeah, okay. Never mind, that makes so much more sense now why he said this stuff. Region of over 2 years and yet have contested. Sorry, Law Daddy, but you are no threat. But you are no threat to me and never will be, with still over 500 wins behind. And I still will say that if you do not have at least over 500 hours on Lawbringer, this is not being biased, but simply being factual wrong, because half of the stuff you said was incorrect, and then you contradicted yourself in the middle of your argument of you trying to state your facts. You cannot simply grasp and obtain the idea of Lawbringer needs and shouldn't need. In conclusion, get good poopers, and you'll be able to have a valid opinion if you can beat me. I'm pretty sure I can beat you, and I'm pretty sure Onyx would agree with me. skip this a little. One more thing.
I don't think it's necessary for me to do any more interviews, so I will give a quick, short montage of what people have said and responded to, because pretty much everyone says the same thing. I will also share some quick messages from people that were not able to show up to the interviews or not able to do audio. So, even they get to have a say. They will be quick, you have to read it. What do you think of the current state of For Honor and the changes they make to the game?
It is leaning towards people who force.
The problem is with these people could be brand new players, low level players, and not even as into these games. I wish she would have gave their gamer tags as long.
People who
With the
play
who
the
was
game.
talking.
Yeah, people who just play the game religiously and don't leave their teammates at all. I feel
That is someone who doesn't play the game as much, because anybody who complains about deathballing at that point, or people that team up, are the same people who complain about getting attacked in a 4v4 game mode. This is an invalid opinion.
it's just you either play with 4-stack or you play with 3 people or you lose every game.
That is true. That part is true somewhat. If you play with your friends, communication comes a long way, and you have a better chance of winning for the most part, unless you're generally good at the game and you can hold the point down. But then, even then, if like you'll still have a hard time. But that part is valid, but everything else he said before is invalid.
What do you think about Highlander being one of the only high skill characters left that is still widely played and respected?
Highlander is not a high skill character. Or, I take that back. He is a high skill character, because you have to learn how to actually do his offensive and defensive and mix them both together. He is, but he's not the only one. Peacekeeper takes skill. What's it called? Nuxia takes skill. Gladiator takes skill. This is gonna anger a lot of people. Nabushi actually takes skill to play. Once you figure, Nabushi does a lot of damage and she's really good and scary, but most Nabushis that don't know how to play her just tend to do their dash light attack, and they just get destroyed. So you actually have to kind of learn how to play Nabushi, and that's why majority of the Nabushi players that make Nabushi seem easy are the 70 Nabushis or the high level Nabushis. So that is inaccurate as well. That's an invalid opinion.
I think it's a shame that a character who is widely regarded as not very good requires a high skill ceiling to be played very high level to be good with it anyway. Where you can just play Orochi and have fucking dodge cancels and pirate with dodge cancels and get away with them as retarded shit possible and still win. It's a shame that still happens.
I want to ask, the first question is, what do you think of the current state of For Honor?
Dog shit, piss game. I play it because I'm bored. I don't actually enjoy it. Realistically though, average game. Dog shit sword game, pew pew, light parry, get owned, doesn't even help.
So,
Nah bro, I shouldn't be punished for being better than people. I deflect people on Shaolin, I punish them with 20 damage. Hold up, hyper armor. Get hit with $32 damage from Hito. I lose that trade because I'm better than him.
on God.
Dog shit game.
I genuinely wanted Baz to show up for audio. I know he has some good points, but I think this will mainly cover what he...
I'll read what he says. I just like to say it's boring to play because of the new reworks they are doing and not really giving characters that need rework, such as Tiandi and Lawbringer. What? Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. You realize Tiandi had a rework and he was meta for a good while Valk was too? Buddy, do you know Valk and Valk and Tiandi were meta? Buddy. Okay, Valk needed reworks such as Tiandi and Lawbringer. They don't need a rework. What do you mean they don't need a Tiandi was just boring to play and he had no presence whatsoever in the game. To them, when they could have just been a quality of life changes instead, but the dev team is a good team though. Utter floating.
Wanted to say since he was not able to show up.
That's an invalid
anymore. Look,
that's an invalid opinion too, because that guy didn't make any sense. I think the current state of the game is just so boring, and it seems that the devs just kind of throw hero skins in as if they were bored to. It just seems like they keep adding shitty executions, effects, and one character skin to try to keep this game together, and the fact that they are basically making everyone Conqueror 2.0 is just so bad. That's also a invalid opinion because, one, not everybody's being Conqueror 2.0 because, one, Conqueror is nerfed pretty good now, and you can guard break them out of bash. So, and on top of that, if you want to talk about a character, these characters being anybody, if anything, they're more close to Medjai than Conqueror. Because they don't have dash bashes, they don't have counting crushers. What they have is long range, big damage, hyper armor on chains, and 50/50s. That is literally Medjai. That is Medjai 2. Those are Medjai 2.0s, not Conquerors.
Like I said, you can see that everyone is saying the same thing. Game is boring. They need to do better with their reworks. Just for a little second, I may bring up one more person. His name is Buddha, and he disagreed with a decent amount of these opinions, at least when I gave it to him. I forgot to record any audio when I did it with him, but he seemed to agree with some things, but mainly disagree, and I know he will watch this video. So if you see him in the comments, I'd know, ask him. It is time to talk about the community of For Honor, because everyone just seems tired.
Oh boy,
I don't think many people actually want to cover this game anymore. Where I started to notice this decline in the community was through Instagram and then through YouTube. Everyone seems to be doing okay, but it must be starting to hit them, because I can easily tell they are getting less views than they used to, which I can't blame them. There's not much to post about this game. Let's go over one of my favorite content creators as an example, King Angelus. We all know how much I love him. I really do, trust me. This is why he lives rent-free in my head 2 years after that exposed video. And his content is only gotten better. I can assure you, it's genuinely good, because this is the same person that said he could beat Havoc, even though I waffle-stomped him really hard in 2 different Dominion matches. But hey, I can't expect the gods to do all the work. Even then, I don't think the gods would waste their time killing a shitter. They would rather take someone more interesting.
Havoc, I win again. Can't beat a console player on 30 frames, so I can't beat console players on 30 frames.
Right, no way. No way Havoc lost to the shitter of the For Honor community. No fucking way. This guy fucking sits there and spectates fake number ones. No way Havoc lost. I feel bad for you. Genuinely, I do, Havoc. I hope for the best. There is no way you lost to this guy that just made a video on, can 4 female content creators beat 4 male? What's next? 4 white guys versus 4 black guys? Like, god damn, Angelus. I can't give him shit. He does make some pretty good thumbnails, and overall his viewership is much higher. He still posts his fake number 1 series. I'm sure if you go find my original exposed video, you'll see all the proof you need. As much as I want to keep shitting on Angelus, I need to move on with the video. Maybe one day I'll make a 3rd exposed video. For the rest of the community though, they seem pretty tired. They seem to just be doing the same content because that's all they can really do with such a game that doesn't get much different content when it comes to game modes or any just unique stuff. They only rehash the same things, which I can't blame the content creators for doing. This is why my content is diverse straight from the start. Instead of just covering For Honor, I do fanboy, Skyrim, modding. I can even teach you how to mod. The one downside to the community is that they only cover this game. They don't really expand too much out. Some of them do, but their main content is For Honor. And then what happens when you alienate your fan base when the game dies and you start covering other games? You can start by covering other topics close to it. But as we all know, that isn't going to work out as there's no other game like For Honor, except Kingdom Come Deliverance. It is time to talk about the state of the game. Where should we start? Let's start off with content. It's not really what we want. I don't think many of us really care about the pirate skin. I mean, who really plays that character? Only special ed people play it. After that, we have universal content. I don't think many of us really care about it. It's the same stuff, nothing really special. It's not really cool, interesting. I do think there is a benefit to some of it can be good, but overall, at this time in Fronto, we just want to see new maps. It seems like the most common complaint about this game. I do think the environmental artists at Ubisoft Montreal, when they used to make maps for Honor, definitely need to get a raise. But with that, the current state is pretty shit. Nothing really entertaining is happening. Nothing really worthwhile. It's just, oh, another season. Anyway, let's not play the game. That's kind of the reaction that I'm getting from a lot of people, and especially me. There's just nothing really worth to buy. Even when it comes to the hero skins that were meant to be something new and exciting, they're pretty terrible. They're also expensive. That's another problem. They're also not really unique. Look at Raider, right? They just made a black guy with a couple of markings on him. That was it. It wasn't really anything special. It was still a naked raider, pretty much. There is little to no competitive scene for the game. I mean, none of it really even exists. Anytime they try to do something, there's always cheating, stupid shit just going on in the background that makes it pretty much hard or impossible for the dev team, or even the Ubisoft team, just to do anything with the game when it comes to a competitive or esports environment. Doesn't help most of the people they try to signal boost as good players are genuinely garbage. This is why OCE is genuinely the only good group of people. Yeah, I'm singling out every group, especially the Americans that think they're top shit. They're not. They're garbage. What are you gonna do? Fight me about it? I just won't respond. I can laugh at you. Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Fight me.
No, you've pretty much made it to the end of the video. Now this is where I'll just talk about small bits of information about
I know that's just bait and troll. Onyx knows better.
the game that I think is interesting and cool. I think it is pretty interesting how they put a lot of work behind the meshing and skeleton work of the characters, especially making sure that everything fits in place, physics work, and everything doesn't clip. That is genuinely hard to pull off in a game. Seeing them take this extra effort when making characters is very impressive, especially with hero skins as well, as they always do this. They always make sure that it works, that there is no texture stretching, or anything in between. Very impressive. I do think it's disappointing that they don't expand on the lore of the game. I do think it's very interesting. I mean, until they butcher it all completely, constantly, and continually butcher it to this day. As you can see, with some of the newer stuff, it makes no sense. This went from being a dark and gritty game to a fantasy game. I think that is very disappointing. It takes away a lot of the messaging and what they had for the campaign, and I do believe Apollyon is a very good villain. Definitely one of the best out there for what it was doing. With such little talk, they were able to make a pretty impactful villain. That is very hard to do with such little time that they had. Not many people talk about the campaign, but it is pretty good to go back for nostalgia. Do any of you boys remember Raven Knight and Baus Phoenix? During the research of this video, I stumbled upon their channels again. Holy shit, it hit me like a wave of nostalgia. So, I don't really have much else I want to add. This part isn't really necessary as it's not really going to cover any information. So join my Discord, subscribe, and help me reach 1,000 subs. Goodbye. I'll see you in the next.
Alright, final thoughts on that. Overall, most of those people's opinions were kind of like, obviously they're their opinions and they're entitled to them and they can think that and stuff, but it was pretty just, well, this and that, you know, it's not really, they weren't valid facts and half of them contradicted themselves in what they were saying, so not that reliable sources. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.